Cool. Hi, everyone. Just really quickly before we start, can I have a quick show of hands? Who's got an Android device? Oh, good. This was going to be a really short talk if none of you did, so we're okay. Okay, so I kind of want to start, I guess, just by explaining a bit about this talk. So a couple of weeks ago, Lee asked me if I give a talk that would kind of complement Ismail's talk on PWAs, and I thought it'd be a great excuse to learn a bit about the web API and give me a chance to kind of play with some of the new tech that I'd not used before. In doing so, I found some scary things. So this quite quickly became more of a security talk than it is API talk. So this is kind of a quick warning. I'm going to do a demo, and you don't have to join in with this, but if you do, I'm going to attempt to take control of all of your devices. So if at any point you don't want to join in, you can just close my app and it won't do anything. I won't record any data from you. Promise. There is a code of conduct, so nothing will install on your devices, and I'm not going to steal any data or anything like that. All I'm going to do is just make your devices do some things, just to kind of demo what can be done, and I guess what shouldn't be done, if any of it works, because it's quite experimental. We'll see how it goes. So if you would like to join in and you don't mind me playing with your mobile for a bit, there is a web address here. It's just dev.maidenacademy.co.uk/projects/web API. If you just go to the domain, just maidenacademy.co.uk, as in dev.maidenacademy.co.uk, you can just click through. There's like a folder path, and you can click through projects and web API, or you can scan the QR code. If you've got an iPhone, if it's a new one, then some of this will work. If it's not that new, then it might not work. I would give it a shot if you want to. If it works, it will tell you. If it doesn't, it will just go red and tell you that it's not going to work. So yeah, everybody that wants to join in, feel free. But it definitely works on Android devices, so on newer Android devices. Yeah, don't forget to put the S in. It should redirect you, but just in case, just check. I'll just give everybody a minute or so to get there. In case anyone's worried, I'm not going to steal any data or look at any files or anything. It's none of that.
Have some really good reviews for yourself when joining in.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Last time you did this, I lost my house.
I have been practicing this one on the students. Sorry, I'm a trainer. I'll explain in a minute. Yeah, I did manage to track down where they all live and map their houses and recorded their living rooms and all sorts of scary things. Sorry, Patrick. No, it doesn't work on iPhones. Well, it doesn't work on your iPhone. Sorry. How are we doing? Has everyone kind of got at least a red or a green screen, or maybe an orange one if you've got a semi-supported device? Yeah, happy to move on. Has anyone got a a green screen? Do we have anyone that this actually works for? Yes. Okay, good. This is going to work for some people. Good. Or may at least work for some people. That's the first step. Okay, so let me just quickly introduce myself, I guess. So my name is Mike Oram. I run Maiden Academy in Bath. We teach software development to, well, everybody from beginners right up to senior stuff. And this talk is, well, as I said, was supposed to be about the web API, but it kind of is, but it's also about some other stuff. Basically, when Lee asked me if I would do a talk, I kind of thought, well, what goes along really well with progressive web apps? And as Ismail was kind of talking about and showed some bullet points on, the real differentiator at the moment between a PWA and native are the things that you can do with that device. So native applications have access to all sorts of things that the device can do, whereas the web API mobile mobile web apps don't have as much access, but they're getting there. So we're going to look at some of the things that you can now do or will soon be able to do, depending on what devices you've got. Okay, so first one, you've probably all seen this kind of thing before. This has been around for a really long time. Geolocation, so this is just the ability to get the latitude and longitude of any device. In order to do this, it's really easy. It's just navigator.geolocation.get current position in your JavaScript. That returns a promise or takes or a callback, and that will just give you the position coordinates. This only works over HTTPS and requires user permission. So when you do this, it will give you a little pop-up and say, yes, I want to do that. There are some old devices that it doesn't require user permissions for, I found. But yeah, so this pretty much works across the board on all devices these days. That one's been around for a while. Next one, the Share API. Ismail talked about this one very briefly. So this currently only works on Android devices and only on Chrome on Android devices. It gives you the ability to tap into native sharing apps. So you can click a link on your website and it will pop up the native share box so that you can share basically anything across any of the social platforms, WhatsApp, that kind of thing. This doesn't require HTTPS, it will just work. It doesn't require user permissions. It does require user interaction. You can't just trigger it. They have to click something or scroll or do something in order to get the pop-up. That's basically the only rule around that one. I guess from a user perspective or from a UX perspective, the only thing I found with this one that was annoying is that there's no limit to how many times you can trigger this. So if you put it on the scroll event, you get quite a lot of them. Don't do that. Next one, the vibration API. This only works on Android devices with Chrome or Firefox. Weirdly, desktop devices like computers, not laptops, think they can do this, but they can't. So the API is like, yes, you can vibrate. No, you can't. Yeah, so that one was fun. Yeah, so this one just gives you the ability to turn vibrations on and off, or to trigger, if you give it an array, it will vibrate on and off for that many milliseconds. There is a limit to how many times you can make the vibrations turn on and off in some browsers, but not all of them. So Chrome will just kind of crack on and just keep vibrating until your phone runs out of battery, whereas Firefox has got a limit. But yeah, pretty simple, easy one. Audio API. So there's kind of two audio APIs or two parts to the audio API. So the first and the kind of the easier one is the ability to play audio files, to synthesize sounds, create effects, visualizations, kind of hook into the bass, treble, etc. from any audio input. The code for this one's a little bit longer because it gives you quite a lot of control around setting pitch, volume, all sorts of things. If you're actually synthesizing sounds, it can be quite a good fun one. We'll attempt to play with it in a minute. I missed support stuff. This one, yeah, doesn't require any user permissions, no HTTPS. You can kind of just do it and just play sounds. It does, like the other one, require user interaction. So you have to click on something or the user has to have interacted. There is a caveat to that one in that although that's the official line that the user has to have interacted, that's actually not implemented in Chrome at the moment. You can just do it whenever you want. It pops up with a warning in your console that says, you're supposed to do this on a user interaction, but we haven't implemented that yet. Yeah, so at the moment you can kind of just use this however, but presumably at some point you won't be able to do that. Yeah, support for this, basically just everything except for Internet Explorer, obviously. Basically none of this works in IE. Online and offline status stuff, this is really useful if you're doing PWA. So there's two parts to this. So there's new events that fire when your connectivity status changes so that you can hook into, so you can make your code hook into the event so you can display a message when the user goes offline or get rid of that message when they reconnect. There's also a Boolean in Navigator called online, and yes, it does have a capital L. It doesn't work if you don't call it online, and I don't know why they did that. whatever. But yeah, so you can use the Boolean and kind of just to decide whether you're online or offline. This works pretty much across everything. No HTTPS required, no user permissions. It's just always there on like all devices. This is part of the network status API, which is kind of a wider API that allows you to look at more connectivity stuff. So you can look at the signal strength, you can look at whether they've got 4G or 3G, you can look at how fast it pings the server. There's all sorts of things that you can get, but the online-offline stuff is probably the most helpful, and it's the most supported, definitely. The other parts of the network API are a little bit iffy. So this is the other part of the audio API, which is the speech synthesis. Yep, that's hard to say during a talk. So this is supposed to work in everything except Internet Explorer. However, it definitely doesn't. I have been testing this and been unable to make it work in anything but Chrome on an Android device. So take from that what you will. But yeah, the idea of this is that you can actually synthesize speech through a device, so you can make the device talk to you. You kind of just type in whatever you want it to say, set the pitch and the rate, and it will just do it. And it will output that. So we'll have a play with that in a minute as well and see if we can get that to work. This is, because this is part of the audio API, again, this one should only be possible on a user interaction, so they should have to click or scroll or do something in order to trigger this. That's not currently true. You can just make it start talking to you, which is what we're going to do. So this one is a little bit scarier. This is where we can start to have some real problems. So this is speech recognition. So we can turn the microphone on any device and just listen, and then it will, well, the first thing it will do is send all the data to Google, and then once it's done that, it will try and figure out what they said, and it actually does effectively speech to text for you. So you can, yeah, figure out what people are saying via their device, any point, and then just send it back, which is kind of what we're going to do. So this does require HTTPS. It does require user permission, so it will pop up a box and say, this website wants to use your microphone. I guess the scarier part about that is that once you've said yes once on a mobile device, it will remember that, and then you can just do it from then on forever. So they can potentially ask for access to a microphone when you're trying to do something that you would expect microphone usage, and then from that point onwards they can just access your microphone whenever they want and record anything you're saying and send it back to themselves, which is what I'm going to do. Yeah, it also comes with an accuracy measure, so it will tell you how accurate it thinks it's been in detecting the voice recognition, which is pretty cool, actually, and it's actually really good. I say that, I mean, it's really good when I'm sat in my lounge and testing it in a completely silent environment. We'll see how it does in a room full of people, but yeah, that was pretty cool and terrifying. Push notifications, I couldn't put this on one slide, there's too much code. So this is the ability to receive notifications from the server when the app is running in the background or not even loaded. So as Ismail was talking about with the service worker, once you've installed the service worker on their device, they could just close their browser, close the tab, turn the device off and back on again, pretty much anything that they do, and you can just push stuff at them and it will tell them to do stuff. This one, when combined with some of the other APIs, can be a little bit worrying because they don't even have to be on your website to record your voice. I am not doing that with my demo, don't worry, I promise. I haven't actually even got a service worker in the demo. All the code for the demo is available on GitHub if you want to see it. It's rubbish, but yeah. So yeah, push notifications are kind of a good way of trying to mirror some of the things that you get from native about telling users when stuff's changed. The big thing with this one is to remember to protect against cross-site request forgery and put tokens in. All the information about this that you need is on MDN. Read that. But yeah, requires HTTPS, requires your user permission. So when you first go to the website, if it's going to use Push notifications, you've probably all seen it. It'll pop up and say, this website wants to send you notifications, and you click no. And because they're annoying. Yeah, again, mostly just Android. I think this is coming to iOS, but it's not there yet. Full screen API. Some of you will have already seen this one, I hope, in that as soon as you opened my example, your phone immediately went into full screen mode. So yeah, this one will just, it forces the device into or out of full screen mode. Very easy, just request full screen or exit full screen. It doesn't stop the user from exiting it manually or going into it manually. It's just the ability to put them into it yourself if you want to. Works on Android, supposedly across Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, but I couldn't get this to work in Safari on any device, even on a desktop machine. So I don't know how true that actually is, but that's what the official docs say. As far as requirements, you don't need HTTPS, and there's no user permissions. It will just do it because you can exit out anyway if you need to. Okay. This is all going to go wrong now. Okay, so if you've got a green screen or an orange screen, can you click Start, please? And we have to wait a little bit, but with any luck, oh look, good. These are all of your devices. Just give it a minute to sync all the devices. That's probably everybody's. Okay, cool. So yeah, so basically all we've just done is I've just synced my laptop via my server to your devices. So now I can push stuff at your devices, and hopefully they will do what I tell them to. I have no idea if this is going to work. This was a terrible idea. Okay, so let's start with some simple ones. So let's have a go with the vibration API. I'm just going to kind of turn around here so that I can actually see what I'm doing. Everybody should have like a user ID on their device. So I'm just going to kind of trigger this off on some random phones, and I have no idea who's who. So we'll see what happens if this works. Tell me if anyone's phone vibrates. Let's try a couple. People finding vibrations? Yes? Good. Okay, good. Let's see if we can do all of them. Anyone's not vibrate? Yeah. Are you on iPhones?
Sorry? Firefox asked.
Did it?
Yeah.
Ah, well, that's good. What device have you got?
It's Android, but it's Firefox.
Oh, cool. Okay, it's good to know. Oh, there you go. Firefox on Android requests vibrations. Okay, so that's the vibrate one. That one's fairly easy. Let's try some sounds. So we should be able to just make some of your. Oh yeah. Can we, as Lee said, can we turn your volumes up? I'm not going to be able to. So yeah, definitely don't turn them down. Let's turn them up and see if we can play some music.
That's me.
We're getting some. Okay, let's just try all of them. So that's just using the audio API. I've synthesized the sound. It's like C minor or something like that. I don't know. The sounds are just basically integers. You can pull them off the web if you just look up audio API sound synthesis. It'll give you the integer numbers that you need for each tone. If you want to build a piano or whatever. Yeah. So that one's pretty cool. You can use it to play files as well, which I haven't done. Let's see if we've got this. Oh yeah, cool. So I'm sure everyone's seen this before. This is just the the geolocation API, so this is us. That's not too bad. So yeah, that's just all the devices that are currently synced, plotted on a Google map. Clearly, 2 of them aren't as accurate as the others, or maybe you're just further back. Let's just say that. Yeah. So let's try some of the harder ones. Speaking. Okay. I don't know if this is going to work.
Hello. Hello.
Thanks, guys. Let's see if we can get all of
This is
that.
the best talk I've ever seen.
Cool. Yeah. So we can synthesize voice through devices as well. That's the same API. It's just the audio API, but using the voice synthesis part of it. Yeah. So that's this one. Yeah. We'll see how this goes. So I'm going to try and listen to a device. So who's got a new-ish Android phone? Let's pick on somebody. Yeah, what have you got?
218.
Okay. Yeah.
1+6.
Okay. And you're 218. I can't read this because which one's 218? Oh, that's rubbish. Well, which one's yours? I think we're.
That's 18.
This
That's
one?
19.
Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, so I'm gonna turn your mic on, and I need you to talk to your phone. And with any luck, it will tell us what you've said. With the accuracy. Let's give this a shot. Did we decide this one was 218? You have to click OK. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've no idea what you want to say. It came up in separate recording, so I guess this is all going into the interwebs.
Okay, so it's not picked up any speech. Oh, there you go. Oh yeah, sorry. So basically, I've got it set to just listen and detect speech every 10 seconds. So if you talk for longer than 10 seconds, then it rolls into the next one. So let's try it again, but just say like a word, just like a single word, like hello or something like that, and see if we can make that.
Elephants?
Yeah, now.
Elephants? Oh. Oh, there we go. Who knows?
So this one's a little bit. Is it still going? Okay, cool. Let's see. Which one's yours? Which one's yours?
That's that one.
This one. Okay, so let's try that one.
Elephant? It's a great word.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, cool.
Could you test something? I had
Go on.
battery saver mode on. Could you try the vibration on 219 again? And see
The
if-
vibration on 219. Yes, we can try that. This one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, could you try that again? Yeah, okay, so battery saver steps it.
Cool.
Vibration.
So,
Well, I
no, if you've got battery saver turned on, then it disables vibrations across your phone. So even if I trigger a vibration, it won't vibrate.
Could you detect the battery level someone has?
We'll get there. It's all right. We've got more slides. Okay. Right. yeah, so that's kind of the end of my demo. I have got a little bit more, but we'll go into that in a second. So there is another API that I wanted to demo, but I'm not allowed to demo this one because it's a breach of the code of conduct and terrifying. So as Ismail mentioned, there's a new Bluetooth API, or newish, requires HTTPS and does require user permissions. It gives you a pop-up and asks which device you want to connect to. It only works with BLE devices, so like compatible devices basically that follow the convention. It's really easy. You can just run navigator.bluetooth.requestDevice. And actually, if you just run this, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute as the actual kind of demo, it will just pop up and ask you which devices you want to connect to. The bit that I'm not showing you and that I'm not allowed to do is there is a way to bypass the pop-up and just connect to anything you want to. So when I was playing with this in my lounge, I accidentally took over all of the Bluetooth devices in my house. That wasn't so much fun. Yeah, basically, if the kind of the short story of this one is that if the device you're using has previously paired to that device, or if the device doesn't have a pin in the pair, there is a way that you can just tell it to auto-connect to any device that it's previously connected to or that doesn't have a security pin to connect to. And then you can just control that device, whatever that gives you. So I took over all of the speakers in my house and wondered why my TV didn't work. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that to you guys. But I am just going to really quickly kind of just demo what happens if you run this bit of code. Yes. Oh, yes. Slides. So this is a demo, but I'm not allowed to do the one I wanted to do. So let's do the other one. Okay. I'm just going to run this from my console, and hopefully that is not it. Where is it? That's the geolocation stuff. No. Oh. Yes. Here we go. Okay, so sorry. So this is just the code that's just from that slide. So if you run this, yeah, there you go. So that's all the Bluetooth devices that my laptop can detect. And now I can, if I want to, I can click on one of these, and I'm not going to do it just in case it's not secure. But if I click on it and click pair, if it doesn't have a pairing pin, then it will connect me to that device and let me do whatever I want. The way that you actually use the Bluetooth API is really weird. The BLE conventions are not nice. You basically just have to pass it like loads of random strings of loads of random integers, and if they're the right integers for that device, then it'll do something. So you basically have to look up the documentation for whatever device you want to control. That being said, what I was able to do with when I was playing with this was just create a loop and just connect to as many devices as I could, and then send back the names and the information of that device to the server, at which point I then can decide what commands I wanted to send, and then send those commands and then just control all of your stuff. So we're not going to do that one, but it is possible. So basically just don't enable Bluetooth on your phone, or click this button. So yeah, that one's pretty cool. Oh no, wrong screen. Okay, cool. So just to talk about some other stuff, so there are other APIs I haven't covered. Sorry, I'm going to go back over here now. I don't need to be stood over there. So there are some other APIs that I haven't covered. There's a USB API. It doesn't really work yet. It's on the way, but it allows you to read and write data from a USB device plugged into your device, which I'm hoping, or actually according to the docs, says that does require user permissions. Let's hope they get that right. The local storage and IndexedDB ones have been around for a while, so that gives us the ability to store data locally on users' devices. So local storage is like a session, but on the client. And IndexedDB is a client-side database. Payment gateway that Ismail mentioned earlier gives us access to Apple Pay or Android Pay, I don't know what the other one's called, so that you can pay for stuff through that. The device orientation one just tells you which way the phone is up. It's a simple one. The clipboard API is officially works in Chrome, but I could get it to work on my desktop, but I couldn't get it to work on my mobile phone. Gives us access to read and write from the clipboard. You can only read stuff that you've written, supposedly. I haven't actually fully tested whether that is true, but that's what they say, that you can only actually read what you've written, so you shouldn't be able to read stuff from the clipboard that other people have copied, let's hope, because password managers, right? There is also an animation API kind of on the way. It is supposedly, I mean, it's officially in the docs, so it has been released. It's supposed to be so that we can do animations easily with JavaScript, but if you actually look at the MDN docs for this, it's harder than like using any of the libraries that exist. So I'm probably just going to stick with the library for animations anyway, but it's supposed to be making it better. And then the last one, which people talk about a lot, which you asked about, is the battery status API, which is supposed to be able to, or used to be able to, read the battery status of any device, so it can tell you whether the device is on charge, whether the device is how much battery is available on that device, how long that device is going to take before it fully decharges, how long it would take to fully charge on a standard charging cycle. There's quite a lot of different information that you used to be able to get. They've taken this one out. Marketing people. So basically, this one, they found that people were exploiting this by tracking people across websites by recording how much battery you had in one place and then recording how much battery you had in another place and how long it would take to decharge between those two places. You can then say how long you've spent between A and B, and like people were mining all this data from this API, so they've got rid of it because you shouldn't be able to do that. And the argument was also like, why do we need to know how much battery they've got? The only usage was to auto-save stuff if the device is about to die. But with client-side storage like local storage and IndexedDB, you should be saving stuff on the client side minimally anyway. So you shouldn't need to just have something that kicks in before the battery dies on the device. So they've just got rid of that one. There are a lot more. If you go to this web address, there is.
You also had with the battery status one who started using it to raise the prices for low batteries.
Oh, really?
So when people were out and their battery was not getting low,
I didn't
they
know
started hiking the price. It's quite an evil thing.
So yeah, they've got rid of that one. So yeah, more valid reasons for not having that.
So basically, don't trust anyone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that kind of worries me a little bit is that one seems like a really innocent API, and if they can exploit it in that way, imagine what they can do with some of the other stuff. I don't like the idea of people being able to listen to me through my phone. Yeah, so if you go here, there's like a list of about 250 different APIs on there. Some of them are like really boring ones, like the fetch API and things that have been around for a while. But there are some really interesting stuff on there. There's no on the list. There's no differentiation between what's an experimental API and what's like actually one that you can use in production at the moment. You have to click into each one and kind of read about it. But it's well worth the read. This is the fun stuff. So there are some newer APIs sort of being considered or being talked about and being drafted. So the wake lock, so prevent devices from falling asleep. You may have noticed that none of your devices have gone to sleep, that they're all still awake, even if you've got like an auto lock set on your phone. I haven't used the wake lock API because it's not actually been released yet, but it's supposed to be on the way. At the moment, you can fake the wake lock by using a video hack, which is how I've done it. So your devices are set up to know when you're playing a video and then disable the auto lock itself. So if you play a 1 second MP4 that is completely transparent, the device thinks you're watching a video and then it will just disable the auto lock for you, which is what I've done to your devices. But that's basically what the wake lock one is supposed to do. The media capture one, it's currently in experimental phase, but doesn't actually work anywhere except from Fire OS, which we've all got, right? But the idea of that one is that you can tap into cameras, you can take screenshots, you can basically capture media from people's devices. Also requires user permissions and HTTPS, or will, but actually hasn't been implemented yet because of all of the scary potentials with it.
Does it need user permissions just the once or every time it?
Well, it doesn't actually exist at the moment, so on Fire OS,
Do you not?
yeah, so on Fire OS, it's just like everything across permissions is once you click OK, it will then remember that for next time, but you can go back and change it and say, actually, don't remember this for next time. But the default of most devices is remember that you said OK last time and then just let them do it. I imagine, hope, who knows, that the media capture API, when implemented on like Chrome and other places, will actually request every time. That seems to make sense, but who knows? And then the last one that people are talking about is contact access, so the ability to read all of your contacts off of your device. So read through names, contact phone numbers, all that kind of stuff. At the moment, obviously, that's possible with native apps, but isn't through the mobile web. And so it's one of the things they want to do. But there's a lot of discussion around should we be doing this stuff? And then the inevitable question comes up that's, well, native can already do it, so why not? Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my demos. I did have one more. But how long have we got? Okay.
Sorry if I've just got anything on the phone.
Okay. I have got one more, which if we've got time, I'm going to give it a try. I haven't actually built a admin panel for this, so I'm going to have to go and play with my database. But if this works, then we're gonna do a Mexican wave across all of your devices. This one definitely has not been tested, but let's see what we can. Okay, that's fine. Probably not. Okay, is everyone's sound on? I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, let's try. It's not really as obvious. Okay, sorry, I'll just turn those off. Yes, there you go. Yeah, it was worth a try. So basically, all I was doing there for just to see if we could get it to work was using your geolocation and using the sound API to detect where you're sat in the room and try and create a wave of sound. But the geolocation needs to be fairly accurate for that to work, and depending on if you've moved or whatever, it just doesn't necessarily work. So it was worth a try. Okay, let's do the last one then. So there's one more. Hopefully your devices have just updated, and you've now got a share button, or will in the next couple of seconds. So this is just the share API. So if you click the share button, provided your device supports this, it will share my talk on Twitter, because clearly you want to do that, just to demo that really. Has that worked? Yeah, cool, good, excellent. So you can pick where you want to share that message. Obviously everyone wants to share that message. And that's it, that's all I've got. So thank you very much. Questions? Please give me some feedback, because I'm giving this talk again in 2 weeks' time and would like to make more of this work. So please give me some feedback when joined in, but otherwise, questions?
clearly rubbish.
Yeah.
So if you struggle with the lexical weight, you could go for a chord next time. So the ones in the front get C, and then D sharp and an F, you might get an S.
Yeah, we could try that, definitely. It's all dependent on how many devices are supported and how many Android users there are, usually. So yeah. The other thing is it's also, I've done it based on, I wasn't sure when I was writing the application where the venue was going to be, and you have to do it, or I've done it. You have to do it basically either based on latitude or longitude, and that depends on which direction it's at as to which way the wave would go. So I picked latitude because I thought we were going to be in desk lodge, which would have made it go backwards, but I think that didn't work because we moved venues, and I blame you for that. I don't know. I thought we were in desk lodge, but when I built the thing, but then clearly we're not.
As you're inside, you're probably not going to get latitude and longitude to work, but if you have two microphones, and then you ping each one, your computer can basically do one listen to get the accurate time.
Yes.
And it's all ping everyone off so you know where they roughly are.
Yeah, like echolocation.
You get the location.
It's the magnetometer. There's an API for that.
There is, but it's more questionable than the ones we've been using. So yes, I could do it that way. I mean, I have got the latitude and longitudes of everyone that did it. I will delete that, don't worry. But it's not as accurate. Yeah, definitely. It was worth a shot.
Love the talk, by the way. Really enjoyed it. One thing that might be helpful is referencing canause.com.
Yeah.
Because one way to know whether you can use any of those APIs in your device is to go.
So I did think of it, but actually most of the things I found aren't true. So I looked on MDN and Can I Use, and they disagree. And then I tested it myself with access to the devices that I had, and they disagreed with what all the documentation says. So my advice is don't look at the documentation. Maybe use it as a guideline, but it's not true. As from what I can tell, for those of you that don't know, I teach programming, so I had access to quite a lot of different devices, and we tried it across like 5 or 6 different devices on different versions of all sorts, and it definitely doesn't work on the things that they say it does or doesn't work on. I don't know how to get around that other than buy all of the devices and do a lot of testing. I tried doing it using BrowserStack to test everything as well, but BrowserStack doesn't support vibration or audio in their mobile devices, so that's useless. But yeah.
So have you any idea who's driving what APIs come out and which ones get implemented and which ones don't? What's the market for?
Google, Google and Firefox, kind of, I guess. Mostly demand. Primarily it's mostly just Chrome. It's mostly what they're putting in Chrome and then who catches up with that, which is why Android devices, a lot of this stuff works and it doesn't in anything else. It's pretty much Google come up with ideas and put it in Chrome, and then other people decide to follow. That's mostly where this stuff's coming from.
And PWA is now a driver because the main use is to be able to do exactly what a native app would do. So all those things come into their own if you're creating an app equivalent, all on the mobile web. So the more PWA grows, then the more demand there is for those APIs to actually.
Yeah, and I think the same vice versa really is that the more APIs that exist, the more like native access that we have, the more likely PWA popularity is to grow because more applications will be able to do what they can already do on native but via the mobile web. So they're kind of supporting each other in that sense.
Do you think maybe it will get to a point where it will be better to use either apps or PWAs because you won't be dealing with GDPR-like concerns if you're using one over the other because of the access that you do or do not have because of the API versus the native?
It doesn't affect your GDPR stuff, so as a company, you still have to follow the GDPR. I mean, everything that I've done there definitely doesn't, but it's not a production app. So it doesn't affect what you have to follow. That being said, GDPR doesn't apply to anyone outside of the EU anyway, so they wouldn't have to follow our rules, and there's nothing we could do to force them to. As far as what is going to be better, that depends on which APIs and what is coming. At the moment, the big differences are like the camera and the contacts. We don't have access to either, which native does, which gives them a lot of capabilities that we just currently can't touch. When they come, so when we have both of those, I think that you'll see quite a big shift away from native towards mobile web, because you could just get rid of all your app developers. Sorry if you're an app developer. Learn JavaScript. I'll teach you. So I don't know. It depends on the APIs that come out.
Do you think the vulnerabilities are greater in the web API than in native? So as you said, the functionalities are the same. You're in both. In my mobile apps, I also grant permission once, and then they can listen forever. So it's not different. But do you think that the web API is more hackable, as it were?
They've got some things wrong with it. The Bluetooth one definitely has some problems in it, as I was talking about. So there's definitely some APIs that are not as good, that are not as secure. But the ones that are a bit more established, like the geolocation, like the ones that people are using in production at the moment, I think it's actually better, because the notification comes up when you need the access, so the request for permission comes up when the app needs that access, rather than when you do the install. So at the moment, if you install a native app, it just asks you straight up, like, can you do this, this, and this, and you just click OK, and then you forget about it, and you don't know what they're using for that. Whereas the mobile web ones, I mean, you could kind of fake it. You could ask for permission up front so that you've got it for later. But I guess in theory, it only asks for it when you actually are using it, so you kind of have a little bit more idea as to what they're using it for. So in that case, it could be a bit better. It would be a lot better if the default of OK didn't remember next time, so that you have to request every time, but then the user experience for that would be rubbish. So I don't know.
But there's no reason not to have a remember this for next time button that the user is consciously aware that they are clicking.
Yeah, I think that would be, that's definitely something that they could do, like have an OK and a OK remember this kind of thing. I think that, so like, if you trigger loads of alerts on a website, after like a couple of them, the browser will go like, do you want to stop these? You could have like the same kind of functionality as like, this has requested your location 15,000 times. Do you really want to do that? I don't know. But at the moment, it's very similar functionality, because once you grant permissions once, that's it.